Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Hello, friends, back again. It's a regular episode of our program. This is episode 82 of Code 47 podcast on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. I am Charlie Carden, Trek Lord of West Michigan, your humble servant, joined as always by my faithful companion who bothers to dress up when I just wear a cute t-shirt. That would be Mr. Peter Stein. How are you?
Doing all right.
And well, good. And our third chair, we're settling into more of a pattern where we're going to be doing a third chair. So Katie will be on most of the time. However, she had another obligation. She is in the great north of Michigan on an away mission, helping out a friend.
Sadly, she misses out talking about Lower Decks.
Oh my gosh! But she'll be back next week because in next week's episode, we're going to have a rip-roaring time, rip-roaring into what I consider to be the worst Star Trek film, even though April and I actually. We did just watch Star Trek 5. Quick sidebar: Star Trek 5 because I got my 4K Blu-ray discs, and we were talking.
I didn't get one of those.
We were talking through them, and April said, "I've never actually seen Star Trek 5. I think I know about bits and pieces, but actually sitting down and watched it." So we sat down and watched it. Wow, talk about a film that holds up less and less as time goes by.
Yeah, I actually saw it for the first time when I was 20, I think.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So kind of elated. Yeah, it was filmed from the summer of '89, and it was not exactly a stellar standout. But anyway, we've talked about it in the past. I think at some point in the past, we'll probably go back and do all the films over again.
That could be fun, especially since they have the re-releases.
Yeah, just because we, I had different guest hosts in the past. And I know that we took 2, 3, and 4 and put them in a trilogy and did it in one episode. And I think that was a mistake. So I'm crunching to do it again. So I'm feeling like when we're in a lull between Prodigy and the next program starting up, we'll probably tackle the films again, whatever weeks we end up having. So anyway, not to put the cart before the horse, we actually have a news story this week. It's Peter's news story, so I'm going to let him take it away, and I'm just going to kind of hang back and smile.
Yeah. Woo! So I found out about this early this morning, and because it just dropped yesterday. So IDW has announced they're releasing a 5-month run of a Star Trek Resurgence prequel comic. Now, if you don't know what Star Trek Resurgence is, never fear. That's because we haven't heard anything about it since March.
Oh my, yes. So, the collective memory is short.
Yeah. So it's a game being worked on by the folks over at Telltale Games. So it's kind of a point and click. If you're familiar with like the Batman series that they did, or like Back to the Future or Game of Thrones, it's going to be something akin to that. It's set after Nemesis, so that period with the old grays and black uniforms.
Telling me it's going to be kind of lower decky?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It looks like it's being a little bit more serious. If only because we know that Spock is involved, so this might actually be a lead up to the Hobus supernova. Who knows?
Oh, okay. So a little further past lower decks.
Yeah, it's not clear when exactly this is. They may have said in one of the earlier announcements, but it hasn't popped up recently.
Gotcha.
But anyway, the comic series is going to follow the shenanigans of the ship, the USS Resolute. And we're dealing with returning guest who we will be mentioning later, Dr. Leah Brahms.
Ooh.
So
she was actually, because I finally, and I'm going to talk about this on SFU Prime, which you'll be listening to this Friday, but I have finally gotten around to reading the magnum opus, Star Trek: The Mirror Universe War, which is set in the TNG era. We actually interviewed the Tipton brothers on this show before the first issue came out, and I subscribed to the series. It kept dropping into my Comixology, and this was like 9 months ago. I haven't read any of them, so I'm going through them now. Leah Braham shows up. You've got mirror versions of Shelby. You've got.
No, I've seen like the covers of them. They look fun. I just haven't.
Oh yeah, they're great. They've got kind of that. They're painted. They got that Alex Ross vibe. So yeah, I'm going to be talking a little bit about that on SFU Prime because I'm enjoying that. And there are a lot of little tie-in novels, like there's one about Data and one about Geordi and one about Picard. But it's kind of cool. It's set a couple of years prior to the season 2 episode crossover that brings us back to the Mirror Universe. So you kind of find out how O'Brien ended up on Terok Nor because he was on the Enterprise before that. And yeah, it's
interesting.
Leia Brahms may or may not have had something to do with that. No, but it's fun. No, I look forward to on issue 7 of 8. So
yeah, the Resurgence run is actually bringing back an alien race that we haven't heard of for a very, very long time. The Talarians.
The guys. They have
the one line through the head. They're the guys with the knives. They adopt the one human kid, and he tries to kill Picard.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, they're the very arrogant, like, we're so badass, and their ships have, like, pea shooters, and, like, we're going to take on the Enterprise.
Yeah, we're going to do all this stuff. Like, you can't do it.
We could literally drive over you like a monster truck. You should piss off. That's what Picard should have said. Yeah, we're taking the kid. Yoink!
Yeah, so it looks like that's going to be interesting. The Talarians appear like they're going to be in a sort of villain role. They don't have a whole lot of details on that. But starting in November, we'll get, it looks like 5 issues.
Cool.
Which means that Resurgence itself is pushed back from late 2022 to early 2023, which is what I was expecting since we hadn't heard anything from them.
It does tend to shake out like that. So, but that's cool. I mean, with this deluge of content that we got shows, we've got, novels and this thing and that thing. And they keep talking about a movie that's hopefully never going to happen if it's going to be set in the Kelvin universe.
If they do an Enterprise Romulan War movie, I'm all for that one.
I mean, that's something that's been thrown around since the mid 2020s. That would be spectacular.
That's been thrown around since like 2010.
Right. I mean,
not before that.
It's in this current climate of we're bringing this thing back and it's successful. They brought back Maverick in Top Gun, and that's now one of the top 3 top grossing films of all time. Now, again, that's cinema, but it's not television, but still, they brought back Picard, and the level of success has been, but people are excited about it. I think the level of excitement, if they can grab maybe not all of the castmates from Enterprise and have another show that shows us some Romulan War, or maybe they do a realistic time jump forward that shows them in the
early Federation.
The 2170. So, it's 10 years after the founding of the Federation. And then there's this big, you know what I mean? And something that Archer's got to get his gang back together, kind of like season 3 of Picard that we're looking at. But boy, are we getting off topic. Oh my God. So this is cool. Yes, I know. We follow the process where it leads us, but we got 2 great episodes of Lower Decks to talk about. And then we're going to get into the end of TOS. Oh my goodness. This is going to be a big episode. So Peter, without further ado, give us the summary of season 3, episode 3 of Lower Decks.
All right, this episode is called Mining the Mind's Mines.
You got that?
On a remote science outpost, stone orbs are bringing fantasies to life. Tendi starts her first day as a senior science officer trainee.
Oh my God, we're keeping the trend going. This season is just crushing it. I mean, in the first 2 minutes, we got what I consider to be an early favorite for the name of this episode. You have a Federation scientist, picking up these little green orbs and whatever it is. And then this woman appears behind him and he says, "So-and-so, my 7th grade teacher, why are you wearing a toga?" And she's like, "Oh, blah, blah, never mind that. I have read your fan fiction about race cars." And she said, "Really? I never showed that to anyone. I wrote myself in as the main character. He's called Speedy McWheels." So, point of order, Speedy McWheels rules is the episode title so far. We'll see how that evolves. But this was fun. So we have our 3 of the characters down on the planet who are charged with gathering up. And what was the name of the alien race? It was like the Grumble or something.
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember exactly.
That was great. I'm like, oh my God. And then you have 3 lower deckers from the Carlsbad, which is also a Caleb class ship. They're down there. They're kind of pissing and moaning at each other. people from Carlsbad are like, yeah, well, we're blah, blah, all about business and this thing and that thing. And so our lower deckers start saying, well, do we have a rep? Do people think we're like jerk offs, basically? You know what I mean? So like they're
useless? Does no one like us?
yeah, so they're trying to anyway. The mission of these 6 ensigns is to gather up all of these orbs, and I think Billups is down there. No, not Billups. Who's the one red shirt guy who's always walking around?
I forget his name. He's
he's
a
always
ransom suck up. I don't remember.
Yeah,
his
he's
name.
his toady. He's just a lizard. He's the guy who has the weak bones. Don't you remember he was on a date in the bar last season, and he has weak bones. And he's like, I do not have bad calcium. Oh, my back. Was that the same guy?
It might be.
It seems like
they then lean into it. Would make sense because they lean into that joke a little bit at the end of this episode.
Right, there you go. So this is so naturally, because these orbs cause hallucinations. Once they finally, they cause your fantasies to come to life, and then your fantasy touches you and it turns you to, like Medusa, it turns you into stone. Well, what happens when you break them is it causes your nightmares to come to life. And some of these nightmares were the bomb. You get a giant Borg anaconda.
That was great.
Klingon clowns with batleths for arms.
Insane Klingon God. Clown posse.
Oh, whoops! Hold on, we might have a contender. Give me that merch. I need a crazy clown with batleth arms. That was hot. So it was fun, and eventually they, obviously they get the issue under control. They find out that the Grumble and the Federation science team were
working together to try to sneak on listening devices, which was hysterical.
They were doing a scam, which is like, oh, that's kind of distasteful. And then the B story was Tendi, and it was really pretty B story because it just didn't have a lot.
Yeah, that didn't do a whole lot for me. I mean, Tendi's great, but it was kind of one of those.
And you got the bird counselor Miggly Mo, who I love because that's Paul F. Tompkins. I mean, it was fine, but yeah, the story was, I like Tendi, but yeah, this B story was a little bit too much B story. So fun episode, but yeah, the A was much stronger than the B, which is fine. It's got to be that way. That's why
every once in a while you got to have there's always going to be episodes that are a little weaker than the others.
Right. No, I totally agree. So, all right, moving on. Any final thoughts before we move on? I'm sorry.
No, not really. I mean, for me, this one was a little weaker than the other ones, potentially because the B story was just meh.
Fair, yeah.
So
I gotcha. Well, cool. All right. Well, moving on. Episode 4 of the season is Room for Growth. Mariner Boimler and Tendi clash with their arch rivals, Delta Shift, and the Cerritos engineers go on mandatory relaxation leave. This was definitely the stronger of the 2 episodes because you had the fun chase through the bowels of the ship. What basically happens is that the episode begins with our lower deckers, in their hallway where they all live, which I still think is just weird because you don't see that in any other ship where the people have absolutely no privacy. Because you do see in Star Trek 6 there are bunks on the Excelsior.
Yeah, but they're in rooms.
Yeah, they're in rooms.
You see them in TNG too when the saucer's going down in Generations.
Right, yeah. But so that makes sense because if you've got this huge ship and there's 1,000 people on board, but the Cali class is, it's sizable, but it's not so big, and we also don't know how many people are on it. So I guess that's the biggest part of it. But
we'll find out.
It works. I mean, it works as a plot device, obviously, because cramped quarters. Obviously, it drives the plot of this episode because what's going on is our people hear a rumor that on one of the upper decks there's one private cabin that's going to become available, but it's going to be a lottery. And then they hear that their arch rivals Beta Shift and our people their arch rivals are Delta Shift, our people are Beta Shift. They hear that the Delta Shift people are going to try to stack it because Tendi's crawling through a corridor and overhears the Delta Shift people talking about how they're going to sneak around.
She's chasing a Murph-like creature.
Oh, right, the Goopy. She's chasing her newest science experiment, Goopy.
Yeah,
very nice.
It just reminds me of Murph. I don't know if that's going to go anywhere, but that's what it reminds me of.
Like Dog. We still haven't seen Dog the Dog again, so you never know. So anyway, the entire thrust of this portion of the episode, and this is an episode I feel like the A story and the B story really do hold water against each other because I both thought that they were great. So all of our A story is these 3 characters trying to beat the Delta Shifters by following an alternate plan where they can't take any of the turbo lifts. They got to crawl through different corridors. So they end up going through a swamp, which is over the hydroponics bay where you see Lieutenant Kayshawn talking to a plant, and just kind of a weird throw in for him, and just strange stuff that they're going through to try to beat it. And they finally get there.
Her hallucinations were pretty funny.
Oh,
I have to admit.
Yeah, Tendi as what was she? A a butterfly, or a star?
Yeah, like a little
wings?
moth, and then like Beckett's arms just doing like this big noodle thing.
Oh my god. It was fantastic. So in the end of it, obviously they say, you know what, we don't want to get split up, but then the person who ends up getting the room
they end up sharing it with the rest of Delta.
Yeah, so they turn it into basically a dorm room, and they're like, why the hell didn't we think of it? And Rutherford is gone because, the beginning of the episode, we had a callback to one of the really not classic season 7 TNG episodes, which was, well, I tell you, if you look at those last 10 episodes of TNG, they were all supremely weak. And this was one of them. And the name of it, where Data gets transformed by the Darcy archives. What's the name of the episode?
Masks.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, that's where it was not Miglimo. What was Nartucci or something? Was
Theodosian mentioned it later.
Yeah, it gets thrown out there. So this was that terrible episode was used comically, like saying, "Oh, God, we got to find a better way to deal with these Darcy archive problems," because it sounds like these happen all the time. But anyway,
there's more.
So what that resulted is in a couple of weeks of the engineering people have to work their asses off to get the ship working again, and they're all super worn out. So the captain says, "You know what? I'm taking all of you on a mandatory rest to the hospital ship or the relaxation ship, and I'm going too." And so they go, and it's funny because the engineers can't find ways not to work and do engineering stuff. And so,
like they do like this drawing in the sand, and they end up like making a warp core reactor schematic.
Right. And the one girl's getting a massage, but she's with her face down.
She's working on a stem bolt.
Yeah, exactly. Not a self-sealing stem bolt.
No.
But funny. It was awesome. Yeah. But so anyway, I love this episode. I think, like I said, our A and B were both equally strong as opposed to episode 3.
Yeah, they worked a lot better.
Where we felt it was really definitely out of whack. So anyway, other thoughts about episode 4?
I thought it was really, really funny how the solution was, we need to go work on something, and they built a de-stressor machine. Just like they Deus Ex Machina a de-stress machine, and then the hospital ship is just like, get rid of it. It'll make us obsolete.
Yeah, they're going to put us out of business. And
they also use cucumbers to trick their stress meter.
I love their stress band. So they basically have a mood ring that's an Apple Watch. It's yellow is slightly stressed, green is good,
red is pretty stressed, and then black alert. Oh no!
Yeah, but black with a red band is super stressed out. So, and it's funny because the captain's talking and getting pissed off, and as she hits black, or she see a vein in her forehead go.
Yep.
It worked for me. It was fun. Like I said, I'm feeling the vibe where I was a little willy-nilly on the show last season. And again, I was kind of colored by the folks I was working with really hated it. So it was tough to enjoy it while getting all this hate. I hate to just dump on that.
And Katie and I love it. So
we love it. And so, when Katie came on board, she's like, no, you're going to watch it again. She had that, we had a whole episode, a segment that was, heels and heal how you feel about Lower Deck and learn how to feel again. So I'm all in, but I think episode 3, season 3, much like season 3 of TNG, I feel like the show is definitely hitting its stride. We're kind of getting some of the best gags because the characters are developing, which kind of helps the develop. So I think that's really helping out. So cool. All right. Well, moving right along, it's the end of the road on this long road.
It's been a very long road.
It's been a very long road. But yes, this brings us to the summer of 1969, cancellation of Star Trek, the original series. Yes, the show, so nice, they canceled it 3 times. And again, I'm spitballing from memory. Peter, feel free to jump in if you have additional facts. But by the time, and we've been talking about this for the last couple of months while we've been breaking the series down, by the time we got to the 3rd season of the show, the people at NBC were like, we really got to get rid of it.
They kept moving it to worse and worse.
They're like, we're going to cut the budget. We're also going to move it to Fridays at 10 p.m., which in 1969 meant people who had a social life which wasn't necessarily people who love Star Trek, were not staying up or staying home on a Friday night when they could be out, doing teenager stuff or doing
if
whatever.
it was me in 1969 doing
I'd be
similar
sitting right
stuff
there.
without the internet, like I would be playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends, and maybe we would have time for TOS at that point.
Or it would be on, exactly. So, but anyway, people were missing it. So the ratings went down, and back in a world where, ratings were king, which just because, that traditional system. Not only that, and again, I would, Peter, feel free to jump in here. I know that after the series was canceled, which happened 3 or 4 weeks before the moon landing, which is totally,
exceptionally stupid.
Yeah. Right. It happened. The final episode, which we'll get to, aired on June 3 of 1969. The moon landing was on June 20 of 1969. So what? Because, the moon landing, and it was like, oh my God, space is real. Oh, where's Star Trek? Meow, meow.
And CBS was like,
NBC actually. Yeah. And I, at that time, and again, I'd have to, I know this is your loose leaf history book. I know that the way Nielsen ratings were calculated, or whatever it is, was reevaluated within a couple of years of this happening. They went back, they crunched all the Star Trek numbers, and they said, oh my God, this is one of the most popular programs in the history of anything. We are stupid, but it was too late. But it did give us TAS, which we will ignore because
there's a couple good episodes in there. But
there's some good concepts, but TAS I would definitely say
it's kind of like Star Trek V. There's good stuff in there, but you do have to look for it.
Exactly correct. Star Trek V I think gave us some great moments. I think there was
that whole bit where they're facing their fears, facing that stuff. That's a good spot. It's one of the Kirk quotes that I've actually used in serious contexts.
Right. I don't want my pain taken away. I need my pain. It's true. From somebody who's been through a lot of crazy bad shit in my life, it's absolutely correct. I would not be standing tall as I am today if I hadn't been through what I've been through. So you know what? That's true. You're right. As a film, it doesn't work. But as it's kind of like, and I know you and I won't agree with this because you love the Star Wars prequels. But what a lot of us older folks say was, the prequels work in pieces. For us people who grew up with the OT, but that's conversation for another time.
Hey, I'm willing to say that there's parts of the prequels that don't work.
Okay.
I'm not one of those starry-eyed, like everything about the prequels is great.
Blink, blink. Yeah, we've had plenty of those on Holocron Chronicles.
Yeah, I do love the prequels as a sidebar, but
it's not an
I am also the guy who will sit there and say, if you want to know what the worst written scene in George Lucas Star Wars is, it's Episode 2, The Fireside Room. That's it. Don't ever make me watch that.
Padme in her S&M gear all the way. Anyway, let's get back to talking about the end of TOS. Yes, because we went from TOS to TAS to Star Trek V to the Star Wars prequels. Woo! Holy cow.
Warp 13 switch.
Yeah, and we will fly backwards to episode 19 of the season is Requiem for Methuselah. Try to say that 5 times fast. Directed by Murray Golden. Don't know the name. Jerome Bixby wrote the script. He was one of, obviously, the producers, stalwarts of the show, certainly during the season. February 14 of 1969. The crew of the Enterprise encounters an immortal human who lives as a recluse on his own planet. Boom! Not only do I love this episode, but this has been the basis of a great piece of, Peel, you'll love this because you're just the same as me, a great piece of fan fiction I've written where there was a guy in the 21st century and and I said it in South Haven because I love South Haven. He and his brother were driving a skimmer over Lake Michigan and it crashed and his brother died and he should have died, but he lived because he was immortal. And then he joined Earth Starfleet and found out, and you just saw his journey throughout Starfleet until, the 25th century. And he was on all these different ships and stuff. So that's kind of like this. And again, boy, I think maybe we should just call this episode the string of Speedy McWheels and the Tangents. Oh, there we go. Speedy McWheels and the Tangents. Give me just a minute to change it. And that's, I'll tell you, best cover band of all time. Speedy McWheel and the Tangents.
With their lead-in band, the Insane Klingon Clown Posse.
That's a little too long, but we're going to say
no. Don't leave it in the title. I'm just saying, if there was ever a concert, the
Insane Klingon Clown Posse. Oh my god! Anyway, I love this episode. I love the concept of the immortally long lived. So we find out this guy who's calling himself Flint was also Socrates and Shakespeare and read lots. Yeah, exactly. Da Vinci, exactly. But he's been, out on this planet by himself, and time is finally catching up with him. He's dying.
Yeah.
But, being, isolated in this world by himself, he created a female companion who he's fallen in love with, but because she's a quasi-emotionless android, it's like naturally Kirk falls for her and tries to get with her because, Kirk. But she can't really understand, that essence of romantic attraction, because he's like, you're the only other sentient being around me, so I love you, and that's why I made you a woman. But she becomes so conflicted with how she feels she's hurting him versus how she's feeling about Kirk that she just futzes out. And
we really find out that there's been multiple versions, which also causes an existential crisis. So
right, exactly. Exactly. So I really liked this episode. I would say as we go through these 6 episodes, it's such a mixed bag, because we got some that are really great,
and then we have some stankers. And then
we have the one we're coming up to next. But I don't want to preclude your thoughts about Requiem for Methuselah.
I generally liked Requiem for Methuselah. I sometimes myself have a little bit of a bias when Star Trek goes into like, hey, these really amazing things. It's this person that was an alien that lived on Earth. There's part of me that's like, that's cool. And there's another part of me that's like,
that's lazy.
Well, it's not just it's lazy. It's like, come on, humans have had lots of success. Let us rest on our own laurels. Don't take it away from us.
Well, that quote is funny, because even Gene Roddenberry was once in a video interview that I saw. He says, aliens didn't build the pyramids; humans built the pyramids. And then
exactly.
Here comes the terrible part, because they're hardworking and they're clever. And I'm like, and it was slave labor, but we don't need to bring that up.
Well, there's actually mixed stories on that one at this point with current archaeology, but yeah.
Right. Yes. But anyway, yeah. Well, the way those things were put together doesn't sound like something somebody would want to do willingly. They didn't have machines.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But who knows?
But anyway, the essence of what Gene said, I think, makes sense, because yes, people are smart and hardworking. Yeah. We create amazing things. It's not aliens. So.
Yeah. And I'm like, I love the episode, but that little part just always gives me just a little bit of pause.
But he wasn't really an alien, though. He
wasn't an alien. But like saying that like it's only one person that's done all these great things throughout history. It's like no. There's lots of people who can do amazing things. And that's all. It's a very, very minor nitpick.
Right. And it also kind of falls right in there with the Star Warsism, like, everybody knows everybody. So Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader also as a kid built C-3PO. And it's just like, okay, not everybody, everybody didn't know everybody. But yes, I kind of styled my guy who should have died, before, and was part of Earth Starfleet during the time of Enterprise. I kind of styled that after this episode, because
no, it's a cool idea. I think there was also another fan show. It's I think it's long since dead at this point.
Gotcha.
It was Star Trek Timelines or something, and they had like an DeLorean that went through the entire history of Starfleet.
I will try to find it and share it with you. You can give me your notes. So anyway, all right. Speaking of stinkers, but it's so magic,
because the writer's great.
It's so magically bad, though. I'm watching it and I'm like, if you look at it like from a 10,000 foot view, it's great, but it is so, how a couple episodes back, Let That Be Your Last Battlefield was like way too on the nose for you. This was way too on the nose for me about literally what was going on in the country. So go ahead, please.
Yeah. So episode 20, if you hadn't guessed yet, The Way to Eden.
Space hippies!
Yeah, Space Hippies. Directed by David Alexander, a veteran. Story by, and this is why it hurts so much, DC Fontana and Arthur Heineman.
I mean, can you just see the writer's room where she's tied to a chair and he's like, and then they have 3 musical numbers, and there's a girl who's playing bicycle spokes, and it's an instrument. Oh my God.
Aired on February 21st, 1969.
Oh my God.
It's a trip.
Yes. Yes, please.
So the Enterprise is hijacked by a criminal doctor and his loyal hippie-like followers who are attempting to find paradise.
Oh my God.
They're not hippie-like. They are hippies.
Of note, the main hippie who delivers one of my favorite lines, I'm going to crack my knuckles and jump for joy. I've got a clean bill of health from Dr. McCoy, is veteran character actor Charles Napier, who was in absolutely everything. I think he was a contract player for like Universal, for example, in the 1970s, because you saw him in Wonder Woman, Incredible Hulk, all these different TV shows. But he was most famous, the lead dude of the Good Old Boys in the Blues Brothers. If you remember the guys who
Oh
had
my
a Winnebago who chased him down, and and all this. Yeah, so it's great guy. I don't know that any of the other actors were of note, but he really was. So that was pretty great. But
yeah.
yeah, without a doubt, a very unabashed viewpoint. Look at my air quotes if you're not watching this on YouTube. Very unabashed viewpoint of the counterculture in the United States at the time, protesting, Vietnam War by a metaphor of saying, well, we're looking for something better. We're looking for the ultimate anything. Of course, the world that they, what happens is the Enterprise finds his ship breaking down, which was stolen. Well, I think it was stolen.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get to a planet in the Romulan neutral zone, not really someplace that you want to be. But eventually they find a way to, and one of the young ladies who's part of the party is a childhood friend / love interest of Chekhov. And so that gets complicated, and they're so persuasive that they got people in the crew listen to them, including when they're playing the song. This was my favorite bit because it's funny because they looped it. When they're playing the song and it's going through the PA on the ship because Spock is playing with them, he's like, I hear, they're doing the, we are one, and I am one with you, or I grok with you, or whatever he's playing with them. And so you see Scotty standing at the International station on the bridge. He's pushing some buttons, and there's a dude sitting in the chair who's obviously an engineer, and he's like going do 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 do. And I think Scotty looks over at him. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing? Knock it off!" But he's speaking to him. He's so reflective of the fact that we hear what these hippie people were saying, but ultimately they're nonviolence was it ended up being
they ultimately ended up being short-sighted and self-destructive.
Exactly. And plus the fact that the doctor, I think is Dr. Severin, was Typhoid Mary, essentially. He carried a lethal virus. Any planet that he would go to as a carrier, he would decimate. According to Bones, he said there wouldn't be enough people left bury the dead. He would be beyond infectious. He would literally kill anyone, obviously, besides the people on the Enterprise. I can't remember why they were not susceptible. Maybe because whatever it was,
it had something to do with the filters on the ship or something.
Whatever it was curable for people in the Federation. But if they landed on a planet with an indigenous population that was not treated for this, they would all die. So ultimately, yes, that's this Dr. Severin very. When he gets to this planet, they get to a planet and all the plants are poisonous, the grass is acid, and Severin's like, no, it can't all be for nothing. And he climbs up a tree and eats an apple and kills himself. Little bit too on the nose.
Yeah, it was very on the nose.
Yeah, big time.
It was another one of those again, it's one of those episodes like, oh, we can do social commentary. Maybe don't try so hard.
Yeah, and this was beyond trying hard. And like I said, there were parts of it that kind of worked in it's an episode 1 situation. Parts of it that worked in concept, but the other parts of it were I don't like sand.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, definitely. But again, it's a classic.
But it has allowed memes. You're right. There's lots of memes about the space hippies, and it did allow for I don't know if you've seen it, but someone took Star Trek TOS clips and put it to Knights of the Round Table from Monty Python, and there's a lot of that in there.
Find me a clip because I've never seen it. I'd like to see it.
Oh no? Oh yeah, it's been bouncing around the internet webs for a while.
Bounce it my way. All right, moving on. Episode 21 is The Cloudminders, directed by Judd Taylor. We've seen his name other points during the season. Story by David Gerrold, who gave us Trouble with Tribbles. So again, a classic writer for the series, and Oliver Crawford, don't know his name. Teleplay by Margaret Arman. This is from February 28 of 1969. Kirk races against time to acquire plague-fighting minerals from a world in the midst of a civil uprising. More social commentary.
This one's a bit better than the previous one, though.
Definitely. You have the planet is Stratos. Their capital city is literally perched on a cloud in the sky, which obviously it's some kind of Star Wars-like repulsor lift technology.
Yeah, it's best been without the tail.
Without the tail, exactly. And then below you have the haves and the have-nots. You have the miners who not only are, a little lower class and they wear, kind of ugly garb, but basically mining these rocks kind of makes them dumb and simple.
Yep.
And so, the struggle, and then obviously our people uncover this, and it becomes an issue for them, even though they're trying to get the mineral because they've got to cure a plague. I mean, it's Star Trek. They got to cure a plague somewhere, so they got to acquire the mineral for this reason. But then, Kirk gets embroiled with, of course, there's one of the troglodyte factions who is amazingly not troglodyte looking nor dumb because she's a servant on the Cloud City. I love this. She tries to attack him in his bed, but he still wrestles her around in kind of a romantic pose because it's Kirk. He's so much more Kirk-like in season 3 than I think the rest of the series. Every episode,
he's more of the cultural stereotype of Kirk in these few episodes.
Right. Yeah. It's, in a difference of, kind of the writing, changing writers and stuff probably definitely has something to do with it. But in the end of it, Kirk ends up getting banished to the surface where he's wearing the worst looking breathing apparatus I've ever seen. Do you see? It's like it's in front of his mouth, but it wraps around the back of his head to
and it's got space everywhere.
Yeah. Right. So it wouldn't work. I think April walked into the room was like, how is that going to keep him from breathing the toxic gases or whatever? I said, it's not. It's bad. This is what happens when you don't have any money for props. You end up with this shit. Somebody put it together with, some twine and
spit and baling wire.
Yeah, spit and baling wire big time. So again, it was a great I thought this was better social commentary. It was executed better.
It was executed much better.
There was the young lady, the daughter, Ardana, I think was her name, with the very tinfoil boob holder that didn't really leave much. There's some very racy outfits in this season. My God. And I thought this was definitely right up there. She fell in love with Spock. Spock is just more the, no, I'm good. Women coming on to him, I think this season in particular. He's just beating him off with a stick where Kirk just goes for it. That's the
they kind of lean into that a little bit more in this one.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Right, it's kind of a more of a dichotomy. Other thoughts about the episode?
Not really. I mean, it's generally fine.
That's going to be your merch quote. It's generally fine.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, I've said that all about a lot of like season 3 episodes. They're okay.
Right.
Okay. This one wasn't terribly memorable for me.
Right.
So like I was reading the description, it's like, oh yeah, that one.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
Delightful.
So
yeah,
I keep getting this one mixed up with Blink of an Eye for some reason.
Which again, episode barely registers for me.
Yeah, it might be because they're both just kind of but
right. Exactly. Well, one thing is is this next episode, which I absolutely adore, the Savage Curtain.
The Savage Curtain, directed by Herschel Dougherty, story by Roddenberry himself, teleplay by Roddenberry and Arthur Heineman, because Arthur Heineman can write a little bit better than Roddenberry.
I guess in circles, yeah.
March 7th, 1969. Aliens, Yarnik, force Kirk and Spock to battle illusionary villains and heroes in a test of good versus evil.
The main which one is President Lincoln? And
this is the one where if you've ever seen just random clip of TOS on TV, this is probably the one you've seen of Abraham Lincoln in his chair just floating into the view screen.
I love, and didn't they work that into either a gag, a visual, or just a spoken gag on Lower Decks? I swear they did.
Lower Decks did. Lower Decks had a skeleton of Yarnik species.
Oh, there you go.
And they used its acid bones to cut a hole in the door.
There you go. No, I meant more the Lincoln bit. I feel like they made. Or maybe
they had Lincoln's skeleton too in that same room.
So the big collector's room. Okay, yeah. I get it. But I love Lincoln. There was a great bit on April and I we love Stephen Colbert, but we'll only ever watch the first half of his show because it's just his monologue, and then he'll do another skit, and then he gets the interviews, which are kind of boring. But he did a Lincoln one recently, and it was something about more controversy about the 2020 election, and then it just basically ended with it said, and everyone remembers Abraham Lincoln's famous speech where blah 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 this thing and that thing, and then the thing takes off his hat and he's got a crown and he says, "I am now your king, all hail Lincoln." I love Lincoln in this, and of course, this does have
He's really, really good.
He does, and he sets up the delivery of one of Nichols' best lines of the series.
This is one of the lines that I like to point to of how these things should be handled.
Exactly. So
especially in contrast to how it's handled in most modern stuff. I'm not pointing fingers at any series in particular. I'm just saying in general, it's not handled as well as this, where Lincoln uses a word, which I will say because in context. So he says that Uhura is a charming negress, and then he pauses, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know if that's like okay." Right. And she just looks at him and it's like, "We've learned that words don't.
We've learned not to fear words.
We've learned not to fear words." And it was just one of those things of human beings can learn, and we can move past the hurts of the past. Right. And that's something that I thought was it's just a blink and you'll miss it. Right. But it's such a really powerful moment and such a really, really well done moment. And they don't sit there and dwell on it, which makes it even better.
Right. And it's so awash in a ton of fantastical science fiction, like, he's a recreation of Lincoln, and then they've got to be down to a planet.
Which makes that interaction make sense, because we associate Lincoln with that struggle with the Civil War. And so for that to come up, it's like, oh yeah, well, of course that would come up. Right. And then he's like, and then we bring up, and then it's like, oh yeah, we've moved past that.
Right.
Cool.
And I mean, it was, and then they, so that was Kirk's moment, because again, Kirk was drawn from Kirk's memory, because it's a personal hero of his. We get the same thing once they do eventually get down to the planet. We get a recreation of Serac, who's basically he's the Vulcan Jesus,
more or less. Yeah.
More or less. Yeah. And I love Spock's line, because he kind of stutters when he sees him. And then he says, when I saw you, I reacted with undue emotion, and for that, I apologize. And again, it's the same thing. Even though Serac is obviously a recreation, he gets what Spock is saying. And Spock regards him as such, the same way that, Kirk knows that he's not talking to Lincoln. And then even Spock says, "Live long and prosper," image of Serac. But he still is affording that same respect.
Because they are still... Right. And they're not like perfect recreations, but they do embody those people. Right. And so like it's kind of like it's better than, but similar to how they deal with the clone of Kahless and TNG.
Right. Very much so. Very much so.
But it's not just those two. We then get our first vision of Kahless, the Unforgettable.
Right. Who is for no good. Now it makes sense, because for no good reason, he's dressed in a current day Klingon military uniform,
because Kirk doesn't know anything about Klingon culture other than he's probably heard the name.
He only knows what he's seen, and all he's seen is other Klingon.
And that's usually what I point to when people start pointing out that this is inconsistent with everything else. It's like, no, because mainly because like we have the painting of Kahless later on in Redemption and such.
Right, exactly.
Not Rightful Heir, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but it's like, well, why would Kahless, blah, blah, blah. It's like, Kirk hadn't met any bumpy-headed Klingons because of the augment virus, blah blah blah.
Right,
and then he hadn't seen like Klingon cultural outfits, because he just needs the military officers.
Right,
so
and
got no context.
And as I've always said, and I should move my Federation history map back behind me here, but I always had when looking at it, the Klingon Empire is so vast that it runs off the map. So I'm always fond of saying that bumpy-headed Klingons and extreme bumpy-headed Klingons that we've seen in Discovery could all be coexisting at the same time in a gigantic, vast empire where
could be
different planets and blah blah. But anyway, we're definitely in the weeds on this one. So we go back to, we've got Kahless, you've got Colonel Green, who gets a call back in Enterprise, which I love.
His uniform gets used in Mork and Mindy. Fun fact.
Oh my God, you're absolutely right. He's wearing Mork's outfit 10 years later. Then you get Zora, who's some weird, something or other, and then Genghis Khan, who just looks like a very stereotypical, like.
He doesn't really do anything. He's just there.
So
he's there for name recognition. That's it.
Right. He's like, and here's something you probably heard about in fifth grade history class. So yeah, it becomes what, in the 80s in Marvel Comics, they had the Secret Wars, which was the miniseries with this creature, the Beyonder, pulled heroes and villains into his own world and said, fight each other, and whoever went, good and evil,
This is
fight
how we
each
got the
other.
Venom symbiote.
That's how we got the Venom suit. So fight each other, and whoever wins gets whatever they want the most. And then that's exactly where this came from. So Jim Shooter, who wrote it, and we're looking at you. We know where you stole it from. I'm kidding. Maybe did, maybe didn't. But anyway, in the end of it, everybody, Kirk and Spock live, but Sirach and Lincoln.
Sirach and Abraham Lincoln sacrifice themselves.
They do. And then the villains in the end of it just run off. And so at the end of it, what Kirk and Spock want to do is leave. So they do. And that's the end of the episode.
Yep.
But yeah, it was, I love this episode. But yeah, you're right. This is one of those that both this and the Space Hippie episode, it seems like anywhere from, mid 1969 to whenever people stopped watching regular broadcast TV, you had like a 1 in 5 chance of 79 episodes of seeing one of these two.
Yeah. I just remember whenever I turned on the TV, the Sci-Fi Channel or Spike TV at whatever time it was, like inevitably I would see Savage Curtain. So I have seen Savage Curtain like a million times. So like I love this episode, but if I'm just doing a watch through and it gets to Savage Curtain, I'm like, if I'm not feeling it, skip. I've seen this one so many times.
Skip a Rooney, that's all right.
It's still a good episode though.
I got it. All right, episode 23. All Our Yesterdays, directed by Marvin Chomsky, written by Jean Lesset, Arostanda. She must be a French woman. Aroset, maybe that sounds.
Arost, I think.
Arost. March 14 of 1969. Wow, there was a several month gap between the final two episodes. That's weird. I'm guessing the series got canceled somewhere between mid-March and basically June, and they're like, we got this one episode left. Boop. But anyway, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are trapped in the past on a world threatened by a nova, and all of the past of this seems to be a mirror to Earth. Because, they've been beamed into it. It's funny, I owe this to Ben Stiller, the comedian and actor who is a huge Star Trek fan, who pointed out to me in one of his films that the librarian at this archive that can send people in the past, his name is Mr. Ataz, A-to-Z.
Yep.
Ataz. But yeah, a funny little old man who's like, I need to prepare you through the Atavachron to go into the past because this world is going to melt down. All the citizens got transitioned and then they got sent off to a different time period so they could live in the past. Yep. Our people end up going through accidentally or without being prepared, which, plot device gives them.
Basically they haven't had their quantum signature scrambled to mix with the current timeline.
Basically,
that's my understanding of it.
Exactly correct. So what happens is kind of an interesting twist. Kirk's plot line is kind of dumb because he goes back to Pirates of the Caribbean.
He goes back to like the Salem witch trials.
It's like, who gives a shit, right? It's stupid and he gets out of it easily enough. The interesting part of the episode is that McCoy and Spock end up in this glacial past where
the Ice Age.
The Ice Age, basically where McCoy is injured or he succumbs to the elements. Spock is able to resist just because of his Vulcan physiology. They are a hooded figure finds them and drags them back to their cave. Turns out the hooded figure happens to be a beautiful woman. It's actually played by Mariette Hartley, who's an actress who went on to be of some note in the 70s and 80s. But what's interesting is that because they're in the past, Spock's methodology, his brain chemistry, kind of lets go of the Vulcan philosophy of embracing logic.
Yeah, so they have like this weird thing where because they're back in time,
Spock turns into
his brain regresses to the earlier Vulcan, which is weird.
It's very weird. And he gets super horny for Mariette Hartley, which is great. Yep. Even spawned a non-canonical tie-in novel where the two of them had sex. She got pregnant, and then he's got a kid in the past, and it's somehow something or other. I never read it. It's called Yesterday's Son, and it was written back in the 80s or something. I've never read it, but I'm aware of it. So now I'm interested. Here's an add us on Twitter. If you've read that book, add us on Twitter at Secret Friends U.
Tell if it's any good.
At the C3 or at Petrus Aquinas. Let one of us know if the novel is worth reading because I'll give it a crack. I mean, that's the thing about any novels on your Kindle now. They're all 99 cents. So you know what? Even if you read it or read half of it or read 10% of it, it's garbage. You spent 99 cents, so who cares? So I'd like to know if it's any good. But he gets horny for Mariette Hartley, and then he gets real short with McCoy. He's like, you know what? I'm sick of your shit. Stop talking to me like I don't like it anymore because I don't like it. But then McCoy says, what were the people on your planet doing 2,000 years ago? They were like the worst of human beings. You know, we got to find a way to get back. Maybe she can't go back. Turns out she was a political prisoner who was sent back to live in the Ice Age as basically a prison because she was a Tavakron Ice. She had to stay, but our guys were able to get back. Then everybody beams back to the ship, and then they fly away. And
Mr. Atos runs into the thing. Happy. The whole society has survived in the sense that they didn't get blown up by the sun, but the civilization's still dead because they didn't save themselves.
You're right. So it's a very glass half full kind of scenario. I totally agree with you there. Oh, man. So we have reached the true end of the road. Is this you or me? Who's reading this one?
Yeah, this one's me.
Go for it. Please take us home.
Okay, episode 24 in total out of episode 79 of 79, the final episode.
The end.
Potentially the worst finale in Star Trek history.
Unceremonious, as we say on SFU all the time, a wet fart. We coined a term in the last episode. It was a buzz of a wet fart, which Oxford said was a buzzy wet fart. There you go.
There you go. Yeah. So if you haven't guessed by now, Turnabout Intruder. Directed by Herb Wallerstein. Story by Gene Roddenberry. I don't know where he pulled this one out.
You know what?
Teleplay by Arthur Singer. Aired on June 3rd of 69.
I'm going to tell you that there's a good chance that maybe this is when he was getting into mushrooms. Maybe he was smoking weed. I don't know.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
You know, it was the 60s. It was, the Beatles wrote Sgt. Pepper on more drugs than you can possibly imagine. And it is a masterpiece of popular music. So you know what? That's not what happened here. That's all I can say.
It's not a masterpiece. No. Yeah, this is one of those episodes that has aged like milk. Not only is it a terrible final episode for the much beloved original series, but it is just a dumpster. We'll say how These Are the Voyages is a terrible send off for Enterprise, but it wasn't just a crap. Well, actually, they're fairly comparable.
Fairly, but at least.
I mean, These Are the Voyages has other things going on that make it a little bit better, but this one just completely takes a dump in your face, and it's not great.
It is, because it is so absolutely right.
So,
with
the synopsis.
Ridiculous sexism. My God. But anyway,
Kirk's consciousness becomes trapped in the body of a woman bent on killing him and taking over his command while inhabiting his body. In concept, not a terrible idea with the brain switching. But the execution is absolutely atrocious, brings in all sorts of things that now we have to be like, what?
Oh. Yeah, like
a woman can't be in command of a starship. Oh no, it's like
women in Starfleet. Right, women in Starfleet. We've seen one officer.
We've seen commanders. We haven't seen any admirals, or we saw someone with a captain rank once, I think.
I'm trying to think in TOS because I feel like I'm drawing a blank on other officers because Chapel was a nurse. Did she have rank or didn't have rank?
No, she didn't. Her sleeves were short, so you never actually saw what she had.
Oh, I feel like in this episode she was wearing her skirt was short.
If anything, she would have lieutenant stripe.
And that's what I hated about ranking in TOS, which they didn't really fix for Strange New Worlds, is that everything is one stripe backwards from the United States Navy. If you look at, for example, Navy whites have the stripe, one stripe is ensign, stripe and a half is lieutenant junior grade, so on and so forth.
Yeah, they're just missing one, which is just weird.
They're missing one, so yeah. So
it's because they wanted that wonky captain stripe, and so then they
wanted two wide and one narrow in the middle. So, but yeah, I feel like Uhura is the highest ranking. There was a commander.
I forget her name at Kirk's court martial.
She
was a commander
in a non-speaking role, I would assume.
No. She was the prosecuting attorney.
Okay. I'm in court martial. I'm going to have to go back and rewind it. But yeah, you're right. We only saw a handful of admirals. None of them were women. The actual line you're referring to is, your world of Starship captains doesn't admit women, which
Yes.
immediately is retcon going back to Enterprise because Erica Hernandez was the captain of
Of the NX-01. And they also made a very, very huge point of it in Star Trek 4, where the opening shot
was actress Madison Sinclair, who was also
Captain Brahms.
I don't know the name of the actress was Madison Sinclair, who was not only Queen of Zamunda in Coming to America,
the captain of the Saratoga, right there.
And she was also the captain of. She was also Geordie LaForge's mother. LaForge's mother, also Starfleet captain. So yeah.
So it's one of those things that gets super retconned, and so this episode, because of that, also just becomes weird with its world building.
Right.
But then it's also just dumb because of how Lester is doing crap.
Right.
She's just written very, very badly.
Right. And
she's spouting all sorts of these sexist tropes against herself.
Right. And then Dr. What's his ass, whose name I'm forgetting, the guy who's, I'm in love with you, and why can't you let it go? And at the end of it, when ultimately she's defeated, she's like, it's okay, I'll take you. It's like, that has no self-respect. I'll take care of her even though she doesn't love me at all. But you know what? I'm a fucking doormat for her, so I'm just gonna let her abuse me. Yeah. It's super cool.
When honestly she should be going with where Garth is.
Yeah,
she's got some serious mental issues.
She's got a penal colony for assault. Because she in identity theft and then
attempted murder
and stealing a Federation vessel, and kind of not. So it'd be like, oh, it's okay, I'll take care of her. No, you fucking will not. You'll put her ass in jail, and you know what?
She needs treatment. Yes, treat her with compassion, but she does need to go to jail for a little while.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it seems like the doctor, he was, and McCoy even said, well, he's was lost his license, and so it seems like he sucks too. So
they both suck, and it's just one of those I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't mind if Lower Decks came back to this and used it as a gag.
Oh my god, that would be awesome.
Just because the mind switching could be it could be really, really funny,
right?
If they did it well, have Boimler switch with Beckett, and then there's all sorts of shenanigans.
Oh my god,
that could be really funny.
You know what? This is. I'll tell you what. Take yourself to Twitter. Anybody else who likes this, at CBS, at Paramount Plus, at the official, Star Trek Lower Decks Twitter, start blowing them up with this idea. This is a fun idea. I like it. So, this was a ending with a whimper, not a bang.
Yep. But on the plus side, it wasn't the end of the story.
It wasn't the end of the story. Yeah, Star Trek, just to give you the thumbnail sketch, which you probably already know, the show went off the air, as I had mentioned, the way that ratings were received and processed. Shortly thereafter proved that the show was an enormous success. They attempted, and I don't know why they didn't bring it back sooner in live action from in the early 70s. Obviously, there's a reason. Maybe
they were trying, but it just kept falling on its face.
And they did the animated series, which again, you could see that it was in an effort to appeal to, there was a younger base that enjoyed the program because, again, the show went into syndication in 1970, 1971, and it was an enormous hit because it aired at 7:00 at night after the 6:00 news. And as I've mentioned before, it's like that scene in Back to the Future where Dad wheels the TV into the dining room and we're watching Star Trek with dinner. So Star Trek becomes this American institution of television, almost unlike anything that you've seen since I Love Lucy or the Westerns from the 90s.
Yeah. And it's Star Trek was one of the ones that spawned the first major fan conventions and the idea that we have now of cultural fandom came from
Star Trek
fans.
Exactly. Because the first convention was in New York City in 1973. I've heard Jimmy Doohan talk about it in interviews. He said they were expecting maybe 100 people. They got 5,000 people, and it just has been growing in the last 50 years since that's been going on. Then they attempted to bring back in a television program that turned into Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and so on and so forth. So, all right. So to wrap this up somewhat succinctly, looking at these last 6 episodes, and maybe even possibly comparing it to the prior 3 segments where we split them up into quarters, how would you rate this segment for strength of episodes versus some of the other stuff we dealt with in season 2?
Well, it's definitely stronger than I think the second segment.
Yeah.
The second, if I remember, the second segment was pretty bad.
I mean, and so was really the first.
The first and second segments were both. There were like 1 or 2, maybe 3 episodes that were like, these are pretty solid.
Spectre the Gun was in there. The Enterprises, and it was in that first one.
So there were a couple good ones, but generally, like, you had Spock's brain, and it was just kind of a dumpster fire.
Yeah. But then we get into this, and it's strong because the only thing we had that was really...
We had The Way to Eden, which is weak, and then we had Turnabout Intruder, which is a dumpster fire.
But something I will say about The Way of Eden is at least it's fun. Where there's nothing,
right. I said it's weak. I didn't say it was bad.
But there's nothing that you can look at Turnabout and then say, oh yeah, that was great. The one thing I thought in Turnabout Intruder that was a redemption is that when it was re-released in 2006, thanks to the HD remastering with the recompositing of all the shots, the Enterprise does fly off into a nebula, so like flying off into the sunset. So.
Yeah, kind of like the end of TNG.
Exactly. So I like that. So
they tried to turn it into a little bit of a salute off, but
right. Yeah, instead of the end of Enterprise, which was just flipping you off.
I mean, I will say the final shot of These Are the Voyages is one of my favorite shots. Mm-hmm. It just is.
Oh, the big transition with all the
transition from the Enterprise D to the original and back to the NX. That is a fantastic. Whoever thought of that,
right?
Bravo.
There was somebody in the room who was thinking smart thoughts, and I like that. So,
but outside of that,
yeah, exactly. All right, that is the end of TOS. So. Holy cow. So this is the first one of the shows in doing it in this format that we have gone through the whole thing.
Yep.
So we're going to be moving in upcoming weeks. We're doing a teardown of Star Trek Nemesis in our next episode. Katie will be back. That's going to be awesome. And then you'll get Katie and I talking about Star Trek Voyager Season 2, where Peter will just be joining us to talk about Lower Decks.
I don't like Voyager. But
he is going to be our Tom Paris. Yes. We'll be going back to the split format. But the next episode, you'll get a full episode, just like this full episode of Peter and I. You'll get a full episode of the three of us. So, Peter, with that, where do people... please take us out. I'm sorry.
All right. For more information about Starfleet International, please visit Grant Petoskey on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Awesome. Peter, where do people find you out there on the webs of Intra?
You can find me out on the interwebs at Petrus Aquinas on most things, as I've said recently. I don't post a whole lot, but you can find me, and you can at me, harass me, and I may respond.
It could happen. Oh, my God. Of course, you can find me over on Twitter at the C3. Just spell it out. And you can find me on other socials doing that as well. My wife, April, and I do run the USS Grand Petoskey. We're the West Michigan chapter of the International Star Trek Fan Club, of which Peter and Katie are members. So find us at a website of that name and also on all socials kind of at that tag. I also do my best to fill up our Secret Friends Unite Facebook community with news as we go. Please do subscribe to our Secret Friends Unite podcast network feed on the podcast service of your choice. That gets you all 4 of our shows. That would be this wonderful program, talking about Star Trek bi-weekly. You also get our weekly Secret Friends Unite Prime show, which has been coming out since 2014, your guide to the geek side. We have co-op mode talking about video games, also bi-weekly. And then we have a Star Wars podcast called the Holocron Chronicles, which Peter was recently on talking about some news. But we've got Andor starting this week, so we're going to have a whole lot to talk about over on that program. So, friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trekking.
Peace and long life.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.